It's not often that the past, the present, and the future all collide, but they're doing it now on the television network that will provide the Rangers baseball games to you. We've got that story and so much more as we get you started now on the DLLS Rangers podcast. Oh, the past, present, and future on and off the field are taking the forefront for the Rangers right now. We'll talk about prospects. We'll talk about the best players of today. We'll look at the future, and we'll do the same with regard to the television contract. Hi, welcome into the DLLS Sports Studios. Welcome into DLLS Rangers. It's me and J-Dub, Jeff Wilson, on the program with you today. We've got the Prophet over there taking care of all these pictures and all these things you see on the screen. And we, of course, have you. We want you each and every day. Please join us, chat with us, like us, subscribe to us. We have news. It is that the Rangers plan for a television partner, if you will, is close. Should be announced right after the first of the year. And, Jeff, you wrote about that today for our viewers and fans to see.
Yeah, and thank you for your contribution and helping me with the technology, the terminology, and all of that stuff. But yeah, so this is kind of cool. We had an idea.
Yeah,
I think one of the elements that the Rangers wanted to incorporate was an over-the-air availability.
Sure,
which means your channels. 4,
local
5,
TV channels,
8,
yep.
11, and their subsidiaries. So that's good. That's free for everybody. It's kind of what the Mavs are doing this year. And then there's the linear side, which is cable and DirecTV, Dish Network, and then the streaming, which that's become a big deal. The Stars. That's the only way to get a Stars game.
It is
through Victory Plus, and the Rangers I don't think want to go full bore on that yet. I think the baseball demographic pool shows that it's an older
yes, that's
group.
it. It skews old.
Yeah, and it's going to be a little more difficult to get them onto a device. So you got to cater to your fan base, and I think the Rangers are really kind of if this plan comes to fruition. Wrote again the story that we have on our website today. Got a pretty good shot, I think. Pretty good shot.
Yeah, and the thing is, when it comes to that digital, it's not even like the ancient baseball fans who are reluctant on these apps. They're not hard to put on your TV. I'm old, and I've got Victory Plus on mine, right? And you can figure it out. That said, a lot of people, they just don't want to go through the hassle right now. And so right now, what the Rangers' plan is to make it available no matter how you want to watch. Now, one of the things they love about the idea of putting it on some of these local-type channels in markets across the area, really across the region, certainly across the state, and one of the things they like about doing that is that those channels often have a local newscast, and they also have other programming as well, of course. But on that local newscast, they pop the sports guy in there and they say, hey, we got Jeff Wilson over here with our sports. Jeff, what's coming up today? Hey, we got this, we got that. And the Rangers are on our air tonight, right? It's cross-promotion. One of the things we never had at Bally or Fox, even before it became Bally, was that type of promotion. The only time people watched Fox or Bally was when they were watching their games. There just wasn't enough programming on those networks. There was stuff on all day, but people tired of watching poker, right?
Ugh.
People tired of watching some of the other shows.
High school
The
football
high school
reruns.
reruns. They tired of watching the fitness programs. That was the programming during the day on the Foxes of the world, on the Bally's of the world. When you're on a local channel, and this is one of the things that teams always loved about it, before everything went to cable, and they loved it, and they love it now, and that is there is this cross-promotion, this inherent promotion, because it behooves that station, whichever one it is, in every single market, and they'll have one in all 34 of those markets that they've targeted, and every single station will have other programming, and within that programming, they'll promote that night's broadcast, and that behooves the station because that means more people are watching that station at night. So it's definitely a win-win. It's probably not a long-term solution, but it's definitely something the Rangers want to do now. And just as the Stars and Victory wanted to make it free for fans, just as the Mavericks with KFAA wanted to make it free for fans, look, everybody recognizes how frustrating it has been for fans to, first of all, not be able to get the games, right? That's the biggest thing. But then secondly, to always have to pay for games, right? And so for the time being, you're going to have the option of free. And when I say time being, I don't think there's any end in sight. I don't think it's going to stop after 1 year.
Yeah.
They're going to keep this plan in place because, look, we don't really know where sports television is headed. We thought the regional sports networks were wildly successful. And at the end of the HSC days, we weren't really sure where sports television was headed. In came Fox and some of these other ones, Yes, and the one in NESN up in Boston, and
Messin, and then the
one in
DC, Baltimore.
Masson. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so all of those came in, and they said, here's what sports television looks like. And it was wildly successful for a period of 25, 30 years, something like that. Then rights fees became what they were, and people became tired of watching everything on cable and paying their cable bill. Here came what we called in the business, the cord cutters. And they said, we want to watch it on our phone. And so now the industry is shifting to figure out a way to make it much more available like that. The Stars have figured it out. However, when the app is free, makes it a little more difficult to make money, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. And so anyway, this option for the Rangers fan, there will be a digital available. I'm not sure if that'll be for free or for not. I think you'll pay if you want to watch it on digital. I know you'll pay if you want to watch it on the linear options, whether that be a cable outlet or whether that be your direct TV. And then it will be free if you want to watch it on your over-the-air channel. That will be an option. And I wasn't able to ascertain whether or not it will be some games on some carriers. Back in the day, even since I was at Fox just before Bally, Channel 21 had a series of Friday night games.
Yeah, sure.
And then
I absolutely remember that.
The announcers would be the same on those games.
Yeah.
But everybody else would be different. So if I was on pre and post game, or if I was on as the sideline reporter, they had somebody different. They had their own people doing that show. So believe me, I didn't mind a bit having Friday nights off. Trust me, we had every Friday off during the baseball season. That wasn't bad at all. And even on the road. And a lot of those Fridays, Jeff, I didn't make it to the ball yard that day.
I don't blame you. I don't think I would have come
I was in a cool city, San Francisco or Seattle, and I'll be darned if we didn't go find other things to do on a Friday night. So anyway, that could happen here, right? Some of the games could be on this over-the-air carrier. Some of the games could be on this linear network. My guess is the stream will probably have all of them available, but I am completely speculating on that. And all of that is just based on, what Jeff has learned the plan is and what I know about television and how TV people think. Right?
Yeah. Check your local listings.
Exactly. Exactly. And
because Natalie has posed the question, what channel will be on? Well, it's probably going to be on a couple different ones.
Yeah, and again, like Jeff says, you must understand that, like Channel 21, for example, was affiliated with Channel 11, still is, right? That's they call them in the business LMA, Lease Management Agreement. That's their LMA station. When I was on the games, when I first got on the games as the sideline reporter, I was still at Channel 5. The games were on Channel 5, but most of them were on our LMA, which was Channel 39.
Yeah, Channel 39.
And so that's where most of the games were. And then slowly but surely, I think in those days, I think the first year we did that contract, all games were on either 5 or 39. And then second year, I think we gave Wednesday night games for some reason to Fox.
Okay.
And Fox was starting to enter into the fray. And then, slowly but surely, Fox took over more and more of the games. And then ultimately around 2000 or 2000, I think it was 2000, that's when Fox Sports, Channel 5 had like 2 games and Fox Sports Net had the rest. And then in 2001, I left Channel 5 to go to Fox Sports Net so I could continue to be a part of the Rangers. So to Ethan's question, I live in Houston. What's my option? Down there, I think there will be, right? I mean, that's the goal. The 34 television markets, Houston will be included. The target is 34 markets, and the idea is to encompass the whole state, and I assume, don't know this for a fact, but I assume parts of Oklahoma, parts of Louisiana, possibly even sneaking up into New Mexico, because Bally and Fox originally were on in those areas. So the Rangers have grown a fan base in areas that don't just include Texas.
Would blackouts still be an issue in Houston?
I don't know that. That's a good question because everything's changed, and on the stream side, is MLB going to change? What people, never, and this is getting really into the weeds, and I'll try to keep it somewhat.
I like the weeds.
What people didn't recognize, I mean, like they'd be so mad at Bally because Bally had this new app, but you couldn't watch the Rangers around here. Like if I went and visited Detroit and I had my Bally app, I could watch the Ranger games on the app. But if I was here on the app, I couldn't watch the Ranger games. Well, that was MLB.
Yeah.
MLB blacked out the local broadcast. They just never gave the local streaming rights to the teams, or really not even to the teams, much less the team's carrier. So it was such a convoluted thing. But, as people were so mad at Bally, I was like, you should be mad at MLB too. MLB is prohibiting us. And I don't think the Bally app was ever worth a crap anyway. But anytime that you could watch games on it, you weren't able to watch the Ranger games on it locally because MLB wouldn't allow it. And I have not heard that has changed.
I mean, that's that.
It has to.
I know,
right?
Manfred wants to change it.
Yeah.
It seems like, hey.
But I think what his
like
point
he's
is
the guy who can change it.
He wants to monetize.
But he does want.
Yeah.
He wants to have half the league, but I think some of these teams sold their streaming rights to Diamond. The ones who stayed with Diamond sold their streaming rights. So it's a mess. I mean, it
is. But I think,
but it's going to be better. The Rangers have a program, a plan that will be better for fans who for 5 years.
Yeah, I know this. The Rangers have figured out a way. They're not going to put the games on on a digital network that you can't watch. So if you're one of the people who has cut the cord, you will be able to watch Rangers baseball on your tablet, on your phone, or on an app on your TV this season. They wouldn't create this digital network if you weren't able to watch the game. So fear not. They'll be available past, present, and future. Past, local TV. Present, linear. Future, digital. Right? So there you go. That's what we know. There's lots more coming, and hopefully we'll be able to be at the forefront of it right after the first of the year. We'll let you know. We'll keep you posted. Next up, though, we want to talk about the top 100 prospects. Baseball America has released its list. Yes, the Rangers are well represented, and coincidentally, Fangraphs has a top 100 players in the game today who they project will be the top 100 in 2025. We're talking about that as well. It's all coming up. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast. But first, we encourage you to be a part of Sleeper. It is going to be such a fun weekend in sports because we have college football playoffs beginning like we've never had before. This is history, right? This weekend will be historic as we get games going in the college football playoffs. And if you don't have your team in the playoffs, there's only 12 of them. So if your team's not in there, one way to make it more interesting is to go in there and look at all the players, on the teams, and you get to pick individuals. Well, will this guy do that? Will this guy do that? And it's a really cool aspect of what you can do on Sleeper. They made their name in fantasy football, but this is a really different way. These daily bets, these daily picks, they're awesome. So we encourage Sleeper. We have fun with Sleeper. Go to sleeper.com, use the code DLLS Rangers, and get a $100 first deposit match.
Well, and it's also a bowl season. So bowl games are being played, and it turns out the Armed Forces Bowl, which is held in Fort Worth, is sold out. So if you're so if you're going to get tickets, you need to use the Game Time app. Game Time is really wants to get a foothold in our area. We have so many events here that you can go to, whether it's concerts at the two ballparks in Arlington or all that other stuff.
I'm going
ball
to
games.
play
You're going
tonight.
To play tonight. By God,
tonight.
And you got them on Game Time.
I did.
Yeah. So Game Time, two great features that I really like. You get to see your view from the seat that you select, and then the price you see is all-in pricing, meaning there's no hidden fees there. Gonna kick you in the shorts when you go to pay for it. So download the Game Time app. Use the code DLLS to get $20 off your first purchase.
Fantastic. So this Baseball America list, look, to us, that have been in the business for so long, Baseball America in many ways is still sort of the Bible, right?
It is.
I mean, it is a well thought of, a very credible source for things. So when they put out a list
I'm the Rangers guy, so it's incredibly credible. Yeah.
Are you really?
Yeah, but not on the prospects. Not on the prospects.
Okay,
just the data. The.
But when they have Rangers content, you write it.
I do.
Well, look at there.
Yeah, it's true. I've been doing it 12, 14, 15 years. It's been a long time.
Yeah. And so you didn't have a say in their prospects. However, they're well represented. Are the Rangers in the top 100 prospects? It's the farm system is healthy. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. They haven't released their top 100 prospects yet. But at last count, the Rangers, I believe, had 3, Rocker, Walcott, and Rosario in the top 10. The new top 10 in the system that was released Tuesday, I think. Those guys are the first 3. In the top 10, Rocker first, Sebastian Walcott, and then Alejandro Rosario. Really a pitching heavy group. Emiliano Teodo, Winston Santos round out the top 5. Malcolm Moore, the first round pick, is in there at 6th. And then their names, they're not going to be any surprise. Oh, hey, that guy jumped up. I guess the ones, if you want to have a surprise, is Yolfran Castillo, who was signed in last year's international class, had a remarkable season in the Dominican. He hit almost 500, was promoted to the States, and did a really, really nice job in the Arizona Complex League. So this is a guy that can hit a little bit. Obviously, he's a teenager. He's
what was that name
17,
again, Jeff?
Yolfran Castillo.
Yolfran Castillo.
Yeah. Alejandro Rosario, who was the Rangers minor league player of the year.
Yeah,
he checks in at 10. So Jack Leiter's in there, hasn't lost his prospect status yet. So and Rocker and Leiter are going to graduate. These systems, these rankings always fluctuate based on who graduates, and once they hit their rookie limits, and are no longer rookies. That's when they fall off of the lists. So the Rangers will have a couple of those this year. But that's why like Langford and Carter were in the top 10 in baseball last year.
Yeah.
And that's why the Rangers system, I think, was third last year. So it's but then all of a sudden they went down to 24. And then you had a guy like Rosario and Castillo who really performed. And so the Rangers jump back up. So they're kind of middle of the road right now.
Where are they right now?
Well, I think they're in the teens. They're back into the teens. But, the draft classes, Dylan Dreiling, he's the one guy left out. He's number 9. He was the second-round draft pick. So, a strong international signing. Like if the Rangers are fortunate enough to sign Roki Sasaki, he's going to be the top prospect in the game.
Yep.
So the Rangers will skyrocket until like May when he hits his rookie innings threshold and then he graduates. But it's interesting how they do it. A lot of it is riding the hot hand. Rosario, who was the Rangers, I think 5th round pick in 23. You look at his college numbers at Miami, and they weren't good. He had like a 6 ERA for his career in college. He was a really good high school prospect. Didn't sign, went to college. It was during COVID. He was eligible for the COVID draft. It was only 5 rounds, so he was really really dug into Miami, where he's from. And then this season that he had really kind of came out of nowhere. But the Rangers kind of felt like it was possible. What they did, and they did it with a lot of these lower level guys, is they like stripped away all the stuff they don't do well. So if he was flirting with a changeup, but it was terrible, well, changeup's gone. Work on your strengths. And so, it's upper 90s, 100-mile-per-hour velocity. It's a really good split, I believe, is what he throws for a secondary pitch. So focus on that. He throws strikes like a mother. I mean, he does not walk guys, and yet he doesn't give up a lot of hard contact. That's something that can plague a strike thrower. Greg Maddux never threw a no-hitter, right? Because he was always in the strike zone.
Yep.
I watched him pitch a one-hitter once, and the one hit, I think, was a Jeff Bagwell homer. Just because just you're around the plate, and But anyway, the point is that Rosario, he could be a real fixture for the next couple of years if he can repeat what he did this year. Sebastian Walcott, on the not to get away from Baseball America, but Jim Callis, who used to work for Baseball America, he's now at MLB Pipeline. John Moore and I had him on the weekly show last week, and we went over some of these guys. And he really put things in perspective on Sebastian Walcott. Sebastian Walcott is 18. Last year he turned 18 in March, so he's a pretty young 18, especially when the season started. And he went out there and had a fantastic season at High A. And basically what Jim said was, if Sebastian Walcott were draft eligible, he'd probably be the number 1 draft prospect because of his age. A high school guy.
Yeah.
Basically for his, you could say his senior year of high school, or maybe his first year of college. But let's say his senior year of high school, he was one of the best players in High A.
Because he was 18 last year.
He was 18 last year.
Senior
and
year.
So, you're talking about we talked about the draft lottery and all that stuff with Jim. And that's kind of what he came to. It's like Ethan Holiday, who's the latest of the Holidays to be a prospect. He's probably the top prospect in the draft. What Jim is saying is that Sebastian Walcott, were he draft eligible, would be the number 1 pick.
Wow.
I mean, it's really remarkable
nice
how
to have
good
that
he
in
is.
your organization.
Yeah, exactly.
And be number 2, by the way.
Yeah.
And Malcolm Moore is interesting to me. And again, this is a guy that went to college.
Correct.
He's a catcher, which is a position that takes a while to develop. But the fact that he ranks as highly on the list as he does says to me that, in basically half of a season right after he was drafted, that he must have developed fairly well, fairly quickly.
Yeah, he didn't post great numbers. He got his first home run out of the way. There was some talk during the draft leading up to it, and even after he was selected, if he was going to stick at catcher, and that's really something that hounded him in high school. Would he play first base? Would he catch? And we've asked that to Kip Fagging, who's the Rangers' amateur scouting director. He's like, we wouldn't have drafted him if we didn't think he could catch.
He needs to catch.
And so they are committed to him catching and getting better. I think he started to see the differences between even at a really good, historically good program like Stanford.
Yeah.
Just the difference in technique and how to be a professional catcher. And you're right, it does take a little bit longer, but they pushed him to high A. He did okay. He got his feet wet, got a good foundation in place. And so I'd imagine he's back at Hickory to start 25. But there is a gap. There's the two major league catchers. Then there's Sam Huff, and his future is very, very cloudy.
Yeah.
So then who is the the next guy? Well, they're going to sign some veteran guys. Like they've apparently reached an agreement on Tucker Barnhart, who's a hell of a defensive catcher.
Yep.
But can't hit his weight. But so you're going to see some guys like that at AAA. Matt Watley is still in the organization. They've re-signed Cooper Johnson, who was at AA and had a nice year. But there's just this gap of like, who's the next guy? Well, it's Malcolm Moore, but it's going to take at least a couple of years.
Yeah, and but the nice thing is the fact that he was a college player,
right?
Accelerates it some, right? It's
for sure.
I mean, a 17-year-old like Sebastian Walcott, you just have to let the kid grow up.
Yeah.
This kid's more grown up, and so he, that may help accelerate it. Then, of course, the fact that he's a catcher slows it back down because it's a very difficult position to learn, especially to do it at the major league level.
And really, you want offense from your catcher. You wish every catcher was Salvador Perez, but the number one job of a catcher is to navigate the pitching staff, navigate a ball game, and call the right game. Receiving, sure, and blocking balls, all of that, but to think that just because a guy's going to hit, he's going to go right to the major leagues. It's just not the case. And so depending on how fast of a learner, how coachable he is, but he's going to get a chance. And but again, it's going to be late 26 at the earliest. I'd think would be when he's in the major leagues.
Yeah, and again, that's the patience that fans have to have. That's the patience that organizations have to have, right? And if you rush these guys, and it's happened, and they've still made it, but the classic example of a guy who was rushed and who hasn't quite tapped the full potential yet is Leote.
Sure.
I mean, they brought him up in 2020 way ahead of schedule based on the situation that was happening with COVID and all that other stuff. Yeah. And again, immediately you saw his athletic ability and you saw his potential. But he hasn't. Yeah. And we talked to Boch about him when we saw him at the winter meetings.
Sure.
And he knows this guy has a really high upside. And I think the Rangers will do what it takes, and they'll have the patience to do it. It's harder, though, to do that, to learn that at the major league level.
Yeah, well, Sam Huff is in the same situation because he got called up that season as well. And, the problem with doing that with Sam is it started his clock. And so, and he's out of options, and really, he was hurt the next year. And I don't even think he played in the majors in 21 because of injury. It just, that COVID thing with the roster size limited, no minor league, so you had to have a camp where they were, worked out but away from the major league team. It was just kind of was a disservice to a lot of these guys. It really was. And I mean, you mentioned right off the bat, Leote is number one. Sam's probably number two, or 1A and 1B scenario, because those guys were top prospects. You see Sam Huff hit a ball, and he might have the best power in the whole organization, including the major leaguers, and just hasn't had a chance to make it happen yet.
No, it's the sad because we just haven't seen Sam display that power other than in BP at the major league level yet. So fingers crossed that he gets those opportunities and has a chance to wow us. He'll be a late bloomer. We had Nelly Cruz. We haven't shown the Nelly Cruz interview yet. We will, but Nelly was a late bloomer.
The ultimate late bloomer.
Yeah, maybe Sam will be like Nelly Cruz was, a late bloomer. So more coming up. In fact, we're about to get you fired up because Fangraphs has released its projected top 100 players in baseball in 2025. Are there any Rangers on the list? And where do some of your favorite players fall? We've got the answers coming next on the DLLS Rangers podcast.
John mentioned the college football playoff that's starting tonight. Tomorrow.
Upon us.
Is it tonight?
I don't know if there's any games tonight. I know tomorrow Notre Dame, Indiana.
There you go. Yeah,
That's
starts tomorrow.
Yeah.
Exciting time. I really love college football. I'm curious to see how this playoff goes. I think they screwed up the bracket myself, but the point is that Saturday Neon is fired up and can help you get through this playoff and cheer on your favorite team, especially if you're a Texas fan. What Saturday Neon is, it's a couple buddies who got together and decided to make some neon signs, LED neon signs. You can do it for your office, your fan cave, if for the ladies, fan cave instead of man cave. But there's nothing like watching a game in a bar, some neon signs, cold brews. So head over to SaturdayNeon.com and use the code DLLS for 10% off your favorite sign.
Yeah, we encourage you to do that. Those signs are fun. And we also encourage you to represent your team. And FOCO allows you to do that. I was on FOCO just the other night checking out, various teams. My son and his significant other are Bills fans. So I actually got a pair of, they were Bills, like, overall shorts for my son's girlfriend. And, they have everything. I mean, it's amazing. I couldn't believe all of the options that they had available. Again, I was looking only in the Bills section that day. And anything and everything Bills they had. Glasses, shot glasses, overalls. I mean, anything you want. Of course, shirts, hats, socks, warm clothes, onesie, pajama. I mean, the whole thing. So go to FOCO and lots of knick-knack type stuff too. Our set is decorated with some things from FOCO. Go to FOCO, use the code DLLS and get 10% off your order at FOCO. All right, Fangraphs keeps us entertained, obviously, a lot, and they came up with this list of the 2025 top 100 players. Jeff has not seen this yet, and so we'll just go through some of this stuff with him. And Jeff, so who would you think the number one player is that they're projecting will be for 2025?
Overall?
Yep.
I'd say Ohtani.
Yeah. Of course,
okay.
Yeah. Shohei Ohtani. And then who would you think number two would be?
Aaron Judge?
Yeah, or Soto, right? One of those two.
Yeah,
they have Gunnar Henderson.
Well, that's interesting.
I thought that was very interesting. Aaron Judge is third. They have another guy who was in the hunt for the MVP award
Bobby
this
Witt
year as the fourth best player, Bobby Witt Jr. from North Texas, and of course the Kansas City Royals. And then Soto is fifth, the guy who just signed the $765 million contract, who many believe, those who watch him, those who played this game believe this is the best hitter in the game. But I don't know. Fangraphs did not reveal what all went into their rankings. Mm-hmm. Maybe his sometimes defensive deficiencies bring him down a little.
Yeah, maybe.
All the way down to fifth. That's not too bad. I thought this was a very interesting choice at 6. A guy who was in the battle for Rookie of the Year. And Cy Young. In the National League.
Paul Skeens.
Yeah, Skeens.
All right.
And
Took me a minute.
It seems high, right? It seems high for me that Paul Skeens, as good as he was this past year, he's a rookie. Anything he's done once in a row, but he's in at number 6. All right, I'm not going to go through that whole list. I'm going to next get to who the Rangers are that represent this list, and there are 4 Rangers.
4 Rangers
on the list.
Okay.
Who do you think the highest ranking Ranger is? And again, it's an apples and oranges list. You got pitchers and position players on the list.
Well, I would go with Corey Seager.
It's a good guess, but he's not the highest. And frankly, we're about to get to Corey because I think he's too low on this list. But higher than Corey at number 12. The first Ranger on the list is Jacob deGrom.
Wow,
right?
That's a high ranking for a guy who hasn't pitched for a while.
Yeah, basically hasn't pitched in almost 2 years by the time we get to opening day.
Well, he's great. He's great. He could be top 5. He could be over Paul Skeens.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then you go down to number 19, and you get to Corey Seager.
19.
Yes. So let's then just go back over some of the names that are ahead of Corey Seager on this list, and I'll try to keep it to position players. So right above him at 18 is Kyle Tucker. Again, love Kyle Tucker, but I don't know if he's ever had the consistency or he's the battler in the box and the guy that, I guess he does strike fear in opposing pitchers.
He steals bases and he's a really good defensive player.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
so maybe.
True. So you've got also above him Francisco Lindor at 14. This is an interesting one. Cal Raleigh at 13. Better than Corey Seager? Come on.
Yeah.
And that's the highest ranking Mariners
player
one. As well.
Is that the highest ranked catcher?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I don't even think Salvi makes this list, amazingly, because I know he's getting old, but how's Salvador Perez not on this list? I don't think he is. Also ahead of him, Yordan Alvarez. He's not quite top 10. He's in the 11 spot. He's the highest ranking Astro on the list. I'd buy that. I'd probably buy that.
He's a hell of a hitter.
He really is. Mookie Betts is the 10th best player on this list. And then, again, based on much shorter span and based on last year, I'm not sure I agree that 9 should be over this list. And I lied about who the highest Mariner was.
Oh, Julio Rodriguez?
Because Julio Rodriguez is at 9. Yeah.
Very inconsistent.
Yeah, he didn't have a very good year.
Yeah.
He's got great potential, but anyway, they've got him at number 9. So I don't know. I think Corey Seager at 19 is too low. The next Ranger you get to isn't until 47. And at 43. And at 43, you'll find Marcus Semien.
Okay.
And I like that. It's an Iron Man. It's a guy who's great defensively. It's a guy who plays every day. It's a guy who did have a down year offensively, but he hasn't had many, right? Look at the big body of work, and you feel like Marcus Semien will rebound from that.
I agree that Marcus had a bad year, and he's usually followed up a down year with a banner year.
Yeah. And then this is a surprise but a pleasant one. Also on this list, the 4th Ranger on the list, coming in at number 76 on the Fangraphs list of the top 100 players for 2025, Wyatt Langford.
That's a good one.
It is. It's a guy who's had pretty much one great month in the major leagues. Yeah. But everybody knows they believe they know, and I think September showed what this guy can do. He was the AL Player of the Month. Yep.
Ahead of Aaron Judge, who had an awesome month.
Who had a good month. Yeah. That's right.
So I'll say this on Skeens. I think that's not a bad place for him. I was watching some of it. I don't know if it was a video or what. It's just filthy stuff. And Jim, going back to the Jim Callis episode I keep referencing, he said Paul Skeens is the best pitcher he's ever seen.
Really?
Ever.
Wow.
Best pitching prospect he's ever seen. And Jim said if somebody said I have to pick one guy to win a game, he said he would pick Paul Skeens.
Wow.
Yeah. And an interesting thing about Paul Skeens, he was a really good catcher in college. At Air Force, he hit 25 home runs one year.
Wow.
And I the ball travels at an Air Force because it's Colorado Springs. But I have a Ranger scout who said that Paul Skeens would have been a first rounder as a catcher.
Jeez.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
When
did he switch to pitching?
Well, and when he got to LSU, they pretty much just were like pitching only.
Okay.
Yeah, but he
didn't switch till he transferred.
He always wanted to hit and all that stuff, but
wow.
They knew what they had, and I think he eventually realized what he had. He's so big. My God, he's a big man.
Yeah.
And I don't want to fear the worst, but something may ultimately end up giving unless he's a freak like Nolan Ryan.
Right.
But he's just so big.
History tells us that this completely unnatural thing called throwing a baseball at 100 miles an hour. It's just, it's so ridiculously hard on the body. And especially in this day and age when you are so focused on that spin too, right? That spin rate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just an unnatural movement for the body.
Yeah, and they and when he got to LSU, I think they tweaked his slider, and that's kind of what started to get him over the top. You know, you come up with these designer pitches, and Keith Meister, we'll talk about it openly. You know, he does not care for the sweeper,
right, and
he doesn't like the power changeup. He says those are elbow wreckers, and I mean, he's the guy. You know, now he and Neil Elatrach out there in L.A. Those are the two guys who are rebuilding the most elbows. And, you know, there were Tyler Malley when he pitched for the Twins. Meister did his elbow.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Anybody who gets hurt basically comes into to Arlington and gets their work done by Keith. And he's also really good with the shoulder, the subscapularis and the teres major and all that junk. He's one of the leaders on that. Even NFL people, Brock Purdy. Keith Meister did Brock Purdy's elbow, the 49ers quarterback.
That's the thing. I mean, my son actually had an ACL surgery done by Brock Purdy when he was in high school.
By Keith.
And by what did I say?
By Brock Purdy.
How about Keith Meister?
Flew him up
Purdy's amazing.
Flew him up to Ames.
Yeah, Purdy's amazing. He's a quarterback and he can cut your elbow or your knee. So Keith Meister did my son's knee surgery, and when he had to go through rehab, which is extensive, months after months on the knee, he was always seeing baseball play.
Oh, yeah.
Pro baseball.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh Pirate over here, Minnesota Twin over there, you know, I mean, and I'm like, who'd you see in there today? And of course, he was there at the same time Josh Hamilton was.
Yeah.
Doing various rehab things. So my son and Josh became buddies. So such as that was, and it's what it's worth.
Yeah. When I rehabbed my back at Keith's place, and Keith actually, I thought I had a bad hip injury, and Keith was the one who was like, I think this is your back. So he recommended me to Drew Dossett, who's a leading back guy in the area in the NFL. And but I did my rehab at TMI, and Martin Perez had just had Tommy John.
So he was there.
They brought in another guy who had Tommy John. Matt Harrison was in there for his back deal. So I saw a lot of Rangers guys. Martin Perez laughed at me one time because I was on the machine with a stability ball and one leg up, and it was a new move, and so I kind of slipped a little bit. He started laughing, and he's over there with a 1 pound weight. I went, "Shut up, man! You're lifting 1 pound right now.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah, give me a break."
Hey, some of the exercises they come up with in that torture chamber are unbelievable. A couple other quick notes here. 2 players on the list that don't have teams affiliated with them. Alex Bregman is the 36th player on the list, and Corbin Burns is number 38. I did the math, and team with the most prospects most on the 100 top 100 list, Houston Astros.
Interesting.
They have 7 on the list. Yeah. And then the Dodgers and Yankees each have 6, and the Washington Nationals, I believe, are the only team with 1. There are 3 teams that have no players on this list. Not Oakland, but the Athletics.
I'm going to call them Oakland.
Okay, Oakland Athletics, and the not surprisingly, the Chicago White Sox and the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah,
3 teams.
And
makes
sense.
Yeah, makes sense. All 3 of them.
Yeah.
So nobody on the top 100 list, but found it fun, found it interesting. One of the things that galled me a little bit too, and I think I heard the bell over there. Did I hear the bell?
You heard the bell.
I heard the bell. Okay, one last thing on this. Where is he? Mike Trout. Where do you think Mike Trout would be? Top 100 players, Mike Trout. We just had Ron Washington on the show saying he's better than 80% of the players in the league.
Well, that's low too.
Yeah, and that's low. So he better be 20 or higher, right? No, 56.
Not right,
kidding
maybe.
Me?
Not right.
Are you kidding me? 56 for Mike Trout. So anyway, that's the top 100 in baseball, at least as Fangraphs believes will be the case in 2025. More coming up as we go batting cleanup. It's the 4th spot in our batting order, and we are batting cleanup next on the DLLS Rangers podcast. But how about my new one? Jeff, did you see this?
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I got that one. I've got that one. Yeah.
New merch. It finally came. Yes, it's hard to find out in the country there. It's hard to find me, which is very much on purpose. But anyway, yeah. So I finally got my shirts. I ordered these on Black Friday.
Okay.
And so it took a minute. But anyway, I've got them, and I'm happy, and they're great quality. Reminded of that when I put them on. They're great in the wash. They don't fade. They don't shrink. Nothing. So you'll like that about them. Store.allcitynetwork.com to get merch like this. And there's plenty of other stuff too. I can't tell you what I got him, but I got something from my son-in-law, and he watches fairly often. So I don't want to say what it was, but I got him something
nice
for under the tree on that as well. So, do yourself a favor and go to store.allcitynetwork.com and get yourself some of this great merchandise that we have available.
I'm wearing the sweatshirt today.
Yeah,
I wore it yesterday too, but we didn't have a show yesterday, so I figured I could double up. This kind of came up today in some of my Twitter mentions. The story that we wrote about the TV contract is for diehards.
Yeah,
it's behind the paywall, and so not everybody could read it, and it kind of ticks some people off. Like, hey man, give it to us for free. Well, that's just not the way it works. That's not the model these days. But I posted, hey, you can become a diehard really easily and really affordably, and you get a shirt. So $79.99 at www.alldlls.com/join. Take you right to the sign up. You enter your information. It's, again, $79.99 for a year. You get a free shirt every year. So go do it. Become a diehard today.
Yeah, and as Jeff has mentioned before, so try to go and click on a story from The Athletic,
right?
If you haven't paid,
right? Or
try to go click on a story from the Morning News if you haven't paid, or literally almost any newspaper from any other market. Like if you're interested in somebody who's in Washington D.C. or in Seattle, you have to pay, right?
Yeah.
That's just the way it is, and our fee is lower than any of them.
Oh my God!
Especially when you factor in the free shirt.
For 100%, 100%. And the Athletic, I think, comes in right around 70, low 70s, but they don't cover the Rangers anymore,
right?
And we do. By God, we cover them all, and it's not. Yeah, so a diehard membership doesn't just get you Rangers access,
right?
It's
Stars,
everything.
Cowboys,
Mavs.
Yep.
So it is 100% worth it. Trust me. If you were a Rangers Today subscriber, it came in at that was $60 a year, but that was just Rangers only. Yeah. For an additional $20, you're getting free other sports.
Yeah,
the team that everybody loves to hate, the Cowboys.
Sure,
the hottest team in the NBA, the Mavericks, and then the best home team in the NHL, the Dallas Stars. So, come on. Yeah. Let's do it.
We'd love to have you on board. Big news for the show tomorrow. Steve Buechele will be joining us tomorrow. So we'll have Boo in studio, old buddy, former third baseman for the Rangers, and a guy who was, in the dugout in 15 and 16 when the Rangers, he was the bench coach when the Rangers, won those two, made those two trips to the playoffs and took on the Blue Jays. So lots to talk with Boo about tomorrow, and we'll be thrilled to have him join us.
He's part of a pretty deep roster of really good third basemen in Rangers history.
It's amazing.
Buddy Bell is criminally underrated, I think, as a player. He won a ton of Gold Gloves. Boo's in there. And then, of course, you have Beltre. Michael Young played third base for a little while. So there's just a good
Palmer
group.
was
Dean
a
Palmer,
good hitter.
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, there are guys. I'm probably leaving them out. I mean, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa won a Gold Glove in 2020 as a third baseman.
He did, and now you got Josh Young.
Keep him on the field, and Josh Young's a heck of a player.
Yep. So yeah, we'll talk. And I told Boo when I was speaking to him today, I said, well, we're going to talk a lot about third base, which is your wheelhouse. So
the hot corner.
Yeah, let's talk hot corner tomorrow. Steve Buechele with us. We're on at noon tomorrow, so we're excited about that. Time to clean things up, and I want to start, Jeff, with this was something that was on the list yesterday, and we didn't have a show, but the Cody Bellinger trade.
Oh, yeah.
They get, and look, they'd been rumored, the Cubs and the Yankees, and we knew it was just a matter of agreeing on what the Yankees were going to give back in order to get Cody Bellinger. Bellinger, we've since learned when they announced the trade, was lobbying to go to the Yankees. That's really where he wanted to go. And he ends up there, and that's good for him if that's where he wanted to go, and that it'll be good for the Yankees. Like it's their first big offensive acquisition, basically, after losing out, on the amazing bid they made for Juan Soto, and they give a guy Cody Poteet back, a right-handed pitcher,
and not a prospect.
Right.
This guy's 30, 31, hasn't had a lot of big league time, and I think one of them sent $5 million. I think the Cubs sent $5 million.
They did.
It was a salary dump. I mean, if we're being honest, when they got Kyle Tucker, that didn't really leave a place for Bellinger unless they moved him to first base. But Michael Busch is kind of a young guy the Cubs like at first base. I thought he would have perhaps garnered more, but if the contract is that. Is that bad? I guess,
I guess it is. I mean, the guy won the MVP in 19.
He was really good in 20. I remember making some great plays when the Dodgers were here for that playoff run in the bubble during COVID.
Yeah.
But then he really just kind of fell off the map. There was a terrible player, and then had a good rebound year. Perfect timing, really, in theory, going into free agency. At 23, had a great year, and then was part of the Boris 4 and signed late, all that stuff, and had an okay year. Not the value there, but he's gonna play center field for the Yankees, and that's significant because Aaron Judge can move to right field where Juan Soto was, but also it takes a lot of punishment off of Judge's big body.
Yep.
You don't need a 250 or 260 pounder playing center field, even as athletic as Judge is, and he seemed to handle it well, except for that one fly ball in Game 5 of the World Series. So it's a good move there, and by not moving Bellinger to first base, that leaves him in the market for a first baseman. And Ken Rosenthal said today that Nathaniel Lowe is a potential trade target for the Yankees. Be interesting to see how that if that gets done, how far that goes. Again, I don't know that the Rangers need to trade Nathaniel Lowe. Good player, he's going to do some good things for you. But it's interesting though, if they keep him, which they can, they have Berger and then they have Josh Smith. They want to get those three guys at bats. Well, what does that do for Ezekiel Duran?
Oh yeah,
and so it's like, does he just become this depth piece? This infielder? Does he sit on the bench and not play?
And for a young guy, that's bad.
Yeah, he's still a young guy. You can't have that for him. So I wonder if he's not somebody who could be traded. I'm not saying it needs to be done, but it seemed, when he played every day for Corey Seager in 23, he was really good. He's one of the unsung heroes of that World Series team. I know he wasn't on the World Series roster until late. He replaced Adolis Garcia.
That's right.
Though not in the lineup, just on the roster. I just can't. I would think that the Rangers could get something for him. It would be from a team, unfortunately, like the White Sox, that have the opportunity for a guy like Duran to play every day. But he obviously has power. He has some hit ability. He has a fantastic arm. Was a pretty handy shortstop. So we'll see what happens. But there's going to be somebody's going to lose at bats if it's
Daniel
the Lowe
stays. Yeah,
if the Lowe Berger Smith thing stays. Yeah. The Lowe Smith Berger. How about that?
I like that. Yeah,
kind of getting squeezed together. We'll see. But it's a good, we have all these great players. It's a good problem to have. If they're established, sure. But I still think Zeke needs the at-bats.
And I think you've ranked them, obviously in the right order in that I don't think I guess it only becomes between Josh and Ezekiel. And right now I think you keep Josh based on that body of work last year. So
sure.
Anyway, let's get to this. Sasaki.
Ah,
We got to go Sasaki Saga. Basically, we had the Soto Saga. Now we got Sasaki Saga. Still hasn't visited anybody that we know of. We still hear it's possible this week. I don't know. Seems unlikely at this point, but maybe tomorrow. And it's really unlikely that he does much of that next week when it's the Christmas holiday. So we'll see what happens there. But it's just been released that there is an executive survey, a MLB pipeline survey.
okay.
That goes to the executive front offices of all 30 clubs.
Ah,
One of the questions on the survey was, where do you think Sasaki will land? Now, the answers were retrieved prior to the Joel Wolf press conference.
okay.
So before he weighed in and told us what he's told us, it went 11 for the Dodgers, 7 for the Padres, and 1 for the Giants, and 1 for the Rangers.
Okay.
That was it.
Well, I just hit myself in the face with the microphone.
That's bad.
But maybe Chris,
but again,
Chris Young, could you vote for yourself?
I wondered. I wondered the same thing. I thought that the Rangers probably voted for the Rangers on that deal. But here's the thing. Joel Wolf said he thought maybe a smaller market was going to be a better fit. So a lot of those people who voted for the Dodgers might have then said, yeah, maybe not.
Yeah,
Right.
It's interesting. Joel Wolf, of course, is an agent, and you can take what he says with a grain of salt. But I thought he was pretty. It seemed like he was very transparent about the kind of person Sasaki was, and I don't think he knows him that well. It's not like they've been buddies for 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, shit. 10 years ago, Sasaki was 13. So so it's he still needs to get to know him, but I think they've hit the highlights. And it's it goes back. I think this media issue that Sasaki had in Japan is really interesting. Now he's a professional baseball player, and he has to recognize that people are going to write what they want to write, and hopefully understand that if he's terrible, then they're going to say, God, this guy was terrible.
Yeah.
And
What
there's
was
going
the
to
hype? What was the hype about?
There's going to be some questions like, God
Sure.
dang it, what happened in that start? What's your deal? It wouldn't be asked like that, but that might be what he feels. But what took it over the edge, I thought, was my understanding. Listen to Wolf, was that some of the media started going after his family and writing some things that weren't true about that. So that's going too
ridiculous.
far.
Yeah.
But you see with crap. You see these in various social media feeds, these silly stories that are just clickbait. And that's stuff that can get under a guy's skin. First,
Sure.
he needs to be able to ignore it. I just wonder though. He has been in obviously large areas during his career in Japan, but he's from the country. The Rangers, when Sasaki was in high school, a group of Rangers officials went out to see him at his high school. They went into his home. It took him 3 hours to get there from Tokyo.
Wow.
So I mean, I didn't know you could travel 3 hours in Japan, but apparently it took 3 hours to get there. He's going to be a down to earth small town guy. Now, can they succeed in big markets? Sure. DeGrom did that. DeGrom is from Florida and kind of a small town guy, wears Wranglers, likes rodeo and all that stuff. You don't see a lot of that in New York City. So, but anyway, we'll see what happens. But I would imagine that meetings will start to take place. Maybe some have already over the phone. I'm not sure. But there's still time. He can't. The last day he can sign is Jan 23rd. The first day he can sign is Jan 15th. So they're in the
8-day window.
Yeah, the international dead period right now. So he can negotiate. He just can't sign.
All right. That is going to do it for us on this Thursday. We appreciate you hanging out with us today, as we always do. We appreciate the chat. We appreciate somebody on there saying it was a great show. We think so, too. We love doing this show with you and hanging out with you. And we're here every day, including tomorrow at noon, when we'll have Steve Buechele on the show. We'll be back actually only 3 times next week, obviously, because of the holiday. But, man, after that, we go full bore and get all up after it. And we want you to always be a part of it. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again tomorrow for another edition of the DLLS Rangers podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.